Welcome to another episode of Founders Club. Today I am out here in Carlsbad at Marshall Sylver's personal residence. As you can see, we're right here on the beach. It's an incredible view, and we're going to be talking about how he went from being homeless as a kid to amassing a big fortune and penthouses and private jets, and how you can reprogram your subconscious mind for massive success. Looking forward to jumping in. So we're sitting here in Marshall's backyard, excited to have a conversation about the mindset and people's programming, and a topic that I kind of nerd out on a little bit. So I'm actually really excited to dive in with you on this. One thing that I saw is you got the title of the world's fastest hypnotist. So how did you get that title? And then I want to go deeper into the how to do it, how to apply it, and how to use it to one's advantage.
Everything's hypnosis. Everything is hypnosis. And when you get that in the beginning of the conversation, you understand that everything we perceive, everything we hold to be true, is true for us. Not necessarily true for the world, yet true for us. And so for me, it's not about the speed of hypnosis. It's not hard to put people in trance. The harder thing is to bring them out of the trance they walk around in all day long, telling them who they are and who they aren't, what they can be, what they can do, what they can have.
And so that's on the subconscious level, you're saying?
It's on every level. And again, sometimes people think, we do think in two ways. We do process in two ways, consciously and subconsciously. Our conscious mind is what's called our critical factor. It's the mind you're using right now in this conversation to determine whether or not the information that I am giving to you will work for you or not. Your subconscious, it's also the gatekeeper, by the way. Your subconscious mind is a computer. And as with all computers, garbage in, garbage out. And most people, their subconscious computer was filled with garbage by the time they were 8 years old. Their entire life, they processed everything that came into their lives through those tainted lenses. And ultimately, that's the reason most people don't get what they want. They just don't view the world in the way that it is. They're depressed, they're anxious, they think life is hard when it's not. They think making money is difficult, which it isn't, it's math. And so when you start clearing up those programs and you start just understanding what are the roadblocks, what are the mental roadblocks that people have in place, get rid of them. Since nature abhors a vacuum, if you're going to get rid of something, you've got to be certain of what you're going to replace it with. And then once you've replaced it with that, and the individual now views the world in a very different way, they view the world through these lenses that say, all things are not just possible, all things are certain. You remove doubt, you start raising the person's self-esteem, self-confidence. They start looking at the world in a way that they say, it's not can I, it's how do I? You know, you take an Edison or an Elon Musk or a Tesla, and those guys, they never looked at circumstances as if, gosh, I'd be lucky to invent this thing. They'd begin with the end in mind. They'd say, no, the invention is certain. I just need to align things. I need to figure out, what works, what doesn't. And Edison was famous for saying, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I found 10,000 ways not to invent the electric light bulb. I also, though, learned a lot of things in those inventions that didn't produce the electric light bulb. People use Post-it notes.
I love that analogy.
Post-it notes are a failed experiment in adhesive. Yet Post-it notes, most people use Post-it notes throughout the course of their lives, on a regular basis.
All the time.
And so we have to stop and realize there's no failures. There's just an inability to look at things in such a way that says, okay, what's perfect about this? Finding our lives less than perfect is a waste of time. It is what it is. And I know that's very Zen, except most people don't get it. I was married twice before I met my one true wife. And I'm glad that I was. I was married when I was 21, and that was just young and dumb, and we got married, and then we got divorced, and we lived together for a year and a half. And then later I got married in my late 30s, and it was just to the wrong person. We weren't suited for each other. And it was such a tough experience that I never wanted to be married again. And you didn't meet my bride. She was on the way out the door to take the kids to art or karate or coding or some class that they take that makes them real human beings.
Right.
And she's perfect. She's a goddess. She's the best decision I ever made. And so I'm really glad that when we met, she asked me, do you think you'll ever want to be married again? And I said, absolutely not. I'm done. I've done that twice. My second marriage, I was married for 11 months. The divorce took 4.5 years. I'll never be married again. And she's so smart. I mean, just brilliant woman. She didn't get upset. She said, okay. And then we were at a speaker's event. I was speaking at somebody else's event. And he said, Marshall, I've never seen you so much in love. I said, I've never been this much in love. He said, when are you getting married? I said, none of your business. And my wife now, Erica, leaned over, put her hand on my shoulder and said, whether Marshall and I are ever legally married, we will be together for life. And I looked at her and I realized it wasn't marriage that I was opposed to. It was divorce.
Yeah.
And here we are 13 years later, sitting on the beach with 3 beautiful babies, all born in the bathtub via hypnosis, no drugs, no doctors, no pain, living the life of both of our dreams, and just, celebrating life every single day.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
It's very exciting seeing what
I think that's time for a sip.
Yeah. Speaking of, let's crack into these. I got a St. Archer Brewing IPA, so shout out to them. And Marshall's having a fresh margarita.
A margarita. Tequila is the only alcohol that is not a depressant.
Ah, see that? You learn something new every day.
Just what you needed to learn. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
The beach.
That'll work.
A brew, a margarita.
Yeah.
Life is good.
That's perfect. So, the bad news is this stuff is there.
Mm-hmm.
The good news is it can be deprogrammed and reprogrammed to benefit you when you're able to reframe things, just like your marriage example.
Yeah, and I don't even know that it's bad. And I think seeing it or framing it as bad takes away its benefits. I don't see my second marriage or my first one at all. My first one was just young and dumb, and she's a great lady, and I wish her well. We just weren't suited for each other. I wanted to be rich. I wanted to live life on my terms. She wanted to have a guy that worked 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, didn't talk about work at dinner, didn't talk about work on the weekends, and that's not me.
Right.
The second one was a rough marriage, and again, I won't find it bad, though, because finding it bad means I won't learn the lesson. And I learned the lesson. The lesson was, after I went through my divorce and I dated a bunch of women, I mean, I'm rich, I'm funny, I'm good looking, I'm humble. I mean, I'm really humble. And the thing about it is that I dated a bunch of people and ultimately reached the point where I said, God, give me someone kind. That's all I want. I want someone kind. I don't want to do drama anymore. And my bride is just this kind, amazing human being that was not the body type, physical look, personality that I would have normally said, that's what I'm drawn to. Just wasn't. And no offense to her, I just realized that I was looking for the wrong thing. And if you keep not getting what you want, ask for something different. Ask for it in a different way. I don't care what it is, whether it's your business, whether it's your lifestyle, whether it's your relationships. You got to stop and say, okay, something in this equation doesn't work. And for me, I'd always dated blonde-haired, blue-eyed, big blue-eyed women, and the really big blue eyes. And the thing about it for me was my bride is sweet and kind and innocent and just very different than that. Same thing in business, though. If you keep not getting what you want, if you keep not making money, you got to ask yourself, what is it that's missing? Sometimes people that are watching podcasts or listening to the podcast, they'll say, God, give me one victory. I'm so tired of getting knocked down. I know you and your partner, Sam, you guys had a couple other businesses, right?
Yeah.
Before Big Block.
Yeah, of course.
Didn't work out the way that Big Block has, and Big Block is a massive success.
They were miserable failures, in fact.
Yeah, and you've got to acknowledge that it's okay. Throw those noodles against the wall anyway. Just don't get to the point where you go, my noodle never sticks. No, that noodle didn't stick, and that one didn't stick. You're one noodle away from the one that sticks.
Yep.
You're one idea away from $1 billion.
That's right.
And we see it so much these days, and yet I just think people take it personally. They think, oh, it's me. No, it's the universe. You weren't supposed to be the person that lined up to invent Uber. You weren't supposed to be in the right space at the right time to have launched Microsoft or Apple or Google or Facebook. Just keep throwing the noodles, though.
Yeah. And don't put that on yourself. Because just like Benjamin Franklin said in your original point, like that was 10,000 times that I had to figure it out the wrong way before I figured it out the right way.
Yep.
But he knew he was going to figure it out.
Yeah, and you take an Edison or a Tesla or, like I said, an Elon Musk, and their brain is wired to begin with the end in mind. Their brain is wired to say, we're going to create tunnels. Elon Musk said, we're going to create underground transportation through California so we don't have all this congestion on the freeway. And for some people, that's such an outlandish idea. That's such a huge idea that they won't even dare think it. And yet he thinks it, and then he voices it, and then he makes it happen. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that because success begets success. When you see somebody else do something, the common person says, well, if they could do it, I could do that. You get enough people thinking that same way, then what happens is everything works. It's velocity. There's velocity in economics, there's velocity in thought process, there's velocity in life experience. And the more people we see succeeding that we can identify with, since reality is created by validation, our brain reaches a point where it says, okay, if they can do it, I can do this too. And I'm going to make it happen now.
Love it. And so just taking a step back, like you are now,
By the way,
is
Oliver, I
something
want to
you've
tell you,
studied.
I want to tell you, we're at my beach house.
Yeah.
I have never, ever, ever shot a podcast at my beach house. This is the first podcast I've ever shot with sunglasses on.
Very nice.
In my bare feet.
Yeah.
So this is like
You're
virgin territory.
You're looking
It's
very
like,
coastal right now.
yeah, thank you. I'm feeling very coastal. So I just want to let you know that, my privacy is very important to me. And I was so excited when I was approached to be on your podcast. And I know what you and Sam have done is remarkable. Just the epitome of validation, which is the point I was making, that, people just set out to do something. And you do it, and you just keep hammering away, and you don't let up, and you say, no, if that didn't work, we'll do this, and that doesn't work, we'll do this, and you find your way.
Yeah.
So anybody watching this right now, I want to just say to you, I was married twice to the wrong people. I pray they're happy. I pray they're way more happy than they could have ever been with me. And now I'm finally with my one true wife. I was poor when I was born. I was born into a house that had no running water, no electricity, no phone, often little, sometimes no food. Twice, my family, myself and my 10 siblings, we were homeless. And, we lived in a chicken coop for a while in a cold Michigan winter. Starting off in those circumstances, we were at my vacation home. My main residence is a 17,000 square foot home in Las Vegas, on an acre and a half, 125,000 gallon swimming pool, full tennis court, half basketball court, skateboard park. My wife and I, we lived there for 6 months before we found a bathroom we didn't even know we had. So
That's very cool. And what's so remarkable, I think, about your story, and thank you for the kind words, by the way. What's so remarkable about your story is that you did come from those really humble beginnings. I mean, to be homeless, to be lacking food, to be dirt poor, as you called it.
Yep.
How did you go from that to where you are now? Because I know a lot of people in those type of situations, they lose hope, they feel pointless, they see it as impossible. And so how did you
just said it. I lost hope. I found certainty. I realized that it wasn't a possibility that I would be a multimillionaire. It was a certainty. I was a multimillionaire even though the money had not yet been deposited in my bank account. And it's one of those things that for me, everything happens in its time. And for me, my mother, we were seated at the dining room table one night, and I was 6 years old, and we were eating peach cobbler, dessert for dinner. In my adult life, I realize now we were having dessert for dinner because there was no other food in the house.
That's all that was there.
Yeah, my mom had some flour, found a big can of peaches in the back of the pan cupboard, and made cobbler. And she's saying a prayer. We're all holding hands. She's saying a prayer. God, please provide for my family. I don't know what to do. And she's crying, and she's not sobbing. She doesn't even sound like she's crying, yet there's streams of water coming down her face, pools on her lap. And I looked at her, and the 6-year-old Marshall said, whatever is making her do that, I will do whatever I need to do to never see that again.
Wow.
And from the time we're born until we're 8 years old, the majority of our programming is done. And for me, that was one of the things that I devoted my lifetime to making my mother's life easier. Because even though there were 11 kids, my mother, because of the different fathers, raised us on her own. And I watched her work 3 jobs, and I watched her not be able to be there for us. And that when she wasn't working, she was there as much as anybody could humanly be. Mm-hmm. I mean, she drove me to my magic shows when I was a kid. She would always be there for the other kids' baseball games, and just remarkable. And so that was one of the things early on that was instilled in me is money cures most things. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't really even stop and think about that. If you have a lot of money, you don't have to worry about governmental health care plans. You've got your own. If you have money, you have more choices of where you can go, so you have more choices of who you'll likely be in a relationship with. When you're rich, you instantly become better looking. Trust me on this one. Trust me on this one. So I decided early on to be rich, and I started working full time when I was 10 years old. I'd go to school from 8 in the morning till 2 o'clock. I'd get out at 2 o'clock, and I'd be on the muck farms in Michigan, which were the dirt, the really rich, dark soil that they would grow carrots and spinach in. And I'd climb through the muck fields till 10 o'clock at night, weeding the muck fields for $1 an hour. I started doing professional magic at 10 years old. and started getting paid for that. And when I discovered that people would pay you for what you love to do anyway, that was an epiphany. That was like a major
moment.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And so now these days, I teach my students, only do what you love. Tell me what you love and I'll teach you how to monetize it.
I love that. So it almost seems like that moment at the dinner table with your mom became your new why.
I don't like why. I like what or how.
Okay.
People say, what's your why? And I get that that's kind of cool, and a lot of people have said that. I like what's your what. And here's the reason I like what's your what. Why is subjective. Why is a moving target. What is a certain thing? And I like certain things. I like certain people. I like certain relationships. I like certain wealth. I like raising certain kids. I like being a certain husband. I like being a certain person. And so for me, I ask not why, I ask what or how. If you ask an employee, why are you late? They'll tell you 100 different reasons, 100 different days in a row. If you ask them, what could we do to get you here on time so you don't lose your job tomorrow?
Oh, I love that.
Then what happens is they start giving you a what. And a what is math. And I like math a lot. Money's math.
Makes it a lot more logical.
It gives them a game plan. It's not a feeling now. No, it's a certainty. It's a plan. It's a doable. It's an actionable.
So relate that back to the dinner table example. What became your what?
My what was no money bad, money good. In fact, we couldn't afford to have pets. My brother went to high school, and as one of the experiments, they had some rats that they put through mazes and labyrinths and stuff. And so they were about to kill the rats because the experiment was done. I mean, this is the 60s. You were allowed to do stuff like that. Not now. The Society of the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals.
Someone knocking at your door,
would be all over you, SCPA. So at any rate, my brother brought the rat home, and I'm 6 years old, and this is right after that incident at the table. I named that rat Money Dollars, and that was my pet for like a year and a half. By the way, rats make really good pets. They make
Money Dollars the rat.
Money Dollars the rat. They rats, I just want to point this out, make really good pets. They're heartbreaking pets. They're so smart. They're really intelligent. They're very affectionate. They all die of cancer. That's how they die. And so for them to do cancer research on rats is a scam.
That's interesting.
Not sure how that fits in the context
of this conversation. Podcast. So it started as magic for you, and then tell me about how it transitioned to more of the hypnosis. And the neuroscience stuff.
Yeah, I did magic early on. We got basically kicked out of Michigan. We were living in a farmhouse that was owned by a sheriff who had died, and my mother was a welfare worker, so she knew the sheriff when he was alive. The family didn't live in Michigan, so the family rented us this house dirt cheap, and it was cool. It was huge. It was like, I don't know, 2,800 square feet, which is smaller than my master bath at my house in Vegas now, except as a kid I thought it was huge. And it had running water, and it had electricity, and it had a bunch of barns and a bunch of sheds. And so at 11 years old, I moved into the house, and I claimed one of the sheds as my very first office. And I used to build haunted houses in the barns and do like magic shows and circuses in the barns and charge the neighbor kids to come over. And we ran out of money. We couldn't afford to pay for the oil bill anymore. And so we had to leave Michigan. Mom packed up the station wagon. We drove to San Diego, where her mother lived. And within one day of arriving in San Diego, I got a job at the local magic shop. I was 14 years old, got a job at the local magic shop, and did a lot of magic. My mentor, who owned the magic shop, is the guy that actually reinvented Halloween. He took it from being a costume store where you went and rented a costume for your party to the guy that came up with the idea of holding Halloween shops in a big box storefront for a month. Only
like
renting the space.
Stores kind of
he
deal.
Invented that.
Wow.
And so I watched him go at 23 years old.
Great idea.
It's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
He went from poor and broke within 5 years, had amassed a fortune of about $60 million. And so that was part of it for me, as he was 9 years my senior. And so watching him do that, that was one of the other epiphanies. Again, I saw somebody that I could identify with. I saw somebody that I could relate to. He loved his mother. I loved my mother. He loved magic. I loved magic. He was willing to work hard. I was willing to work hard. And I saw him do that. And so once again, since reality is created by validation, you have enough of those examples side by side by people you can relate to, by people you can identify with. Your brain has to say, if they can do it, I can do it. And so if you're watching this podcast right now, I want you to know, I want you to be certain, whatever anybody else can do, you can do. It's not a matter of can you or will you or should you or could you. No, it's done. The challenge is you don't follow through enough. You don't finish what you've started. You don't keep knocking away. You hit a speed bump and you think it's the end of the road. It's not. It's a bump in the road. Keep going. Keep chipping away. I promise you, eventually you'll hit what you want. And so at 16 years old, I was at my high school and a hypnotist came by. And I'd never been hypnotized, never seen a hypnotist. I got on stage and he flapped his arms up and down a few times and gave me a suggestion. He said that when he said the words, "Sonny boy," I would stand up from my seat in the audience, I'd walk back to the stage, I'd fall on my own butt, I'd roll my pant legs up above my knees, I'd climb on his lap, I'd put my thumb in my own mouth, and I'd say, "Sing it again, Daddy." Well, I'm going back to my seat, Oliver, and I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I'm going to do this. And I'm wearing my sister's clothes to school, I'm already self-conscious. And I go back to my seat in the audience, and he says, "Sonny boy." And it was like a magnet was pulling me back. And I'm going back to the stage, and I'm thinking, I don't have to do this.
Why am I doing this right now?
No, I wasn't even asking why. I don't have to do this. And I go back to the stage, and I fall on my butt, and I roll up my pant legs, and I sit on his lap, and I put my thumb on my mouth, and I say, "Sing it again, Daddy." And I went home that night, and my head was spinning.
Right.
Not from the margarita, because I was 16. It was, and I went home that night, and I thought, was I actually hypnotized, or was I just doing what he told me to do? And I thought, well, what if he had told you to be confident? And you did because he told you to. What if he had told you to get off marijuana? Because I was smoking pot at the time. I thought, what if he had told me to go out and be a multimillionaire? And because he told me I could, I believed it was certain. And I just went out and took positive, powerful, productive action in the present moment. I realized in that moment, if that was hypnosis, he said I did, no question. If that was hypnosis, then that was one of the most powerful forces on the planet.
Wow.
And since then, it took me a few years. I hypnotized my first subject at 17. There was a girl that I was best friends with that I didn't want to be best friends with. I wanted to be her boyfriend, except I'd entered the friend zone and couldn't shake it. And so she was my first hypnotic subject. After I hypnotized her, she couldn't keep her hands off of me. I mean, all over me, wanting to make out and fool around. I'm going, dang, I like hypnosis. This is good stuff. I think I might do this.
I'm onto something
I'm
here.
going to do this. And I hypnotized 2 more people with great results. And then the challenge was I didn't know enough about it. And the next 3 subjects that I went to hypnotize didn't respond well. And so I thought I'd lost my mojo. And I didn't really think about it. Didn't even have it on the front of my mind. Fast forward, from the time I was 21 till I was 23, I went through 8 jobs and 8 apartments in 2 years. I was searching for who I was, my identity. And at one of the jobs that I had, I was a DJ, mobile DJ. And we would go to wedding receptions, we would go to the military base. And one of the other DJs, we'd get $250 a night, we'd do 4 hours, decent money. That's what, $62, 50 cents an hour.
Yeah.
Good money.
At the time, that's crazy.
I'm 23 years old, really
Right.
good. Not working hard, it was fun work. And this one guy disappears. And then one day I'm back on the military base, and there's a poster of him as hypnotist. And I went, whoa. And so I called him, I said, dude, what are you doing? He said, I'm a hypnotist now. I said, how'd that happen? He said, I found this guy, he trained me. And I said, I know that guy, I know how to do this. He said, I used to make $250 for 4 hours work. Now I make $2,500 for 1 hour's work. I said, I need to check this out.
Yeah.
And so I sought the guy out that he had trained with. And it was a 5-day, 10-hour-a-day course. I took 4 hours on the first day. And the moment I saw what he was doing, I said, I know this stuff. I know this. This is what I was studying, so many years ago. And so I left class at lunchtime from LA, drove back down here to San Diego, cold called the next morning on a restaurant nightclub chain called Carlos Murphy's. It was a chain that was a Mexican restaurant and an Irish pub. And I said, I've got this hypnotic show. I'd like to book it into your venues. And here's what I charge. The guy booked me 4 nights a week instantly. Got back in the car, drove back up to LA for the second half of the second day. And the teacher is ranting about lack of commitment will never get you what you want. And, that's why people don't succeed. And what do you have to say for yourself? And without missing a beat, I said, I went down to San Diego and I was so filled with confidence from what you taught me yesterday morning, I booked my brand new hypnotic show 4 nights a week. And he, without missing a beat, said, and he's the exact reason people succeed in this business.
Yeah.
And as they say, the rest is history.
That's a mic drop moment.
It was magic. Within 3 months of becoming a hypnotist, I was on the David Letterman show, and Letterman ripped me apart. I mean, I was too young and dumb and inexperienced to be on Letterman. He ripped me apart. So the first time I go on the show, I'm attempting to hypnotize this woman, and he keeps grabbing her and shaking her and going, are you hypnotized? Are you hypnotized? And so I go home, kind of tail between my legs moment, and Letterman got so much hate mail because he abused me. I mean, it was mean-spirited that the producer, Morty, calls me back and he says, come on back on the show. I said, no, he's just going to be mean to me again. I don't want to do it. He said, no, he'll let you do your thing. I said, no, he's going to be mean. So they convinced me to come back. And so what I was going to do is hypnotize a woman, make her body stiff and rigid, lay her across supports for her ankles and her neck, and then stand on her midsection. I figured that how could he call what I'm doing fake when I do something like that? And so I go back there, and I should have known. I'm just naive. You know, kind people think everybody's kind. I'm a kind guy. I thought everybody was like me. And the Morty asked me, he says, are you going to tell any jokes? I said, yeah, I got a couple. He says, what are they going to be? And so naively, I tell him what the jokes are so that his writers can write counter material to it. And so I go out to do my thing, and I go to make the woman stiff and rigid, and it's the same thing. He's harassing me up and down, and finally, I've got to make the woman stiff and rigid by touching the sides of her body with my forearms, and I say, stiff and rigid as a steel bar. Stiff and rigid as a steel bar. He starts getting between me and the camera, mocking me, going, steel bar, steel bar. At that point, I had enough. I said, okay, fine. I said, that's right, David, stiff and rigid, something you know nothing about. His jaw drops. His 23-year-old kid is coming back on him now. He goes. They edited it out. You can see it on YouTube, but they edited it out. He kicks the desk and drops an MFer. Kicks the desk. And so I need his assistance to make the girl stiff and rigid, lay her across the supports, and then stand on her. I need his assistance and balance to get up there. And he's still mocking me because he's so livid at this point. And so he's not helping me. He's mocking me to the camera. I said, David, save your breath. You'll need it to blow up your date later. Come help me.
Wow.
Throws his hands up, he comes and he helps me. So I get up, I do my thing, I leave. I'm in the green room, and Ziggy Marley, Bob Marley's son, is the next guest. And Ziggy and David are talking, except David's like all on me. He's lit about me. He won't quit talking about me. And one of the things he says directly to the camera, for all your hypnotic needs, Marshall Sylver is the man to see. And he's patronizing me, except for the last, I don't know, 34 years, it's on every one of my publicity pieces.
I was going to say, that sounds like magic
for
right
all
there.
your hypnotic needs,
Yep.
and he can't fight me for the quote.
Yep.
He said it.
Yep.
And so it's so funny. The next night,
so good.
They bumped the top 10 list because it was so chaotic. They bumped the top 10 list all together. And the next night, they do his top 10 list. And it's the top 10 things you will never hear me say on my TV show. Goes through all these things. And then he gets to the number one thing he'll never say. The number one thing I'll never say on this show, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Hypnotist Marshall Sylver. So he's still talking about me. So every single 6 months after that, I get a call from Morty, and he'd say, Marshall, come be on the show. I said, no, you know, he's kind of a Richard. I don't want to go back on the show. I don't want to do it. And 10 years later, I have an infomercial that we've done $120 million in the first year with the show. The show's a big success. I'm all over the media. I just opened up a show on the Strip in Las Vegas, which is what I'd always wanted to do. Morty calls me, the timing is perfect. He says, Marshall, we know you got your Vegas show. Your infomercial is clearly a hit. David has mellowed. He's moved over to CBS. He's gotten his butt kicked by Leno over on NBC. He's a kinder, gentler Dave. Would you please come be on our show? I had watched it, and I had seen that. And I said, you know what? Timing is good. I'll come back on. Here's the only thing. I need David to give me a chance to hypnotize his staff. I'm not going to hypnotize some strangers. I want to hypnotize the staff. So there's no question what I do is legit. And if you'll let me do that, I'll come back and I'll do my thing. And he said, yeah. So I come back, and sure enough, I hypnotized the staff. And I knew Letterman likes to mess with people. And so I gave the subjects a suggestion that if David said the words, sleep now, that they'd fall into trance, knowing David wouldn't know how to bring them out. So he'd be caught. He'd have to call me back up. And so sure enough, he starts messing with the stage manager, Biff. And he says, sleep now. Biff drops right in the chair on the spot. He's going, what the heck? How do I bring him out? I think I killed him. And so he calls me on the phone, and it was great. I was on actually 3 times in 3 weeks. Great television, great theater, great fun.
Turned it all around.
Yep.
And how's the relationship now?
You know, he's cool. He's awesome. I have my own beliefs about how the world works, and I don't like people that are mean. And with our President Trump, I've seen a lot of people that I used to respect just say the most ridiculous, mean things, and I won't have anything to do with those people. He's a great guy, phenomenal entertainer, extremely smart. I just don't like mean politics.
Yeah, fair enough.
So went on record right there. I just did it.
I want to get into the kind of meat and potatoes around this whole thing. So this is something you've practiced a long time, you've evolved over many years. And what is kind of, from a 30,000 foot view, what is subconscious reprogramming?
I say you do, no question. To quote Mr. Miyagi.
Okay.
And Mr. Miyagi said, I say you do, no question. That is hypnosis. I tell you, Oliver, here are the steps, A, B, C, and D, for you to have the life of your dreams. You go out and you do A and D and come back to me and say, it didn't work. And I say, what about B and C? And you say, I didn't think they were that important. And I say, I used to have hair. I used to have hair. And I pulled it out because people wouldn't do exactly what I told them to do. That's what it is. It's not difficult to create the lives of our dreams. It's different, though. And people get stuck on what they think is the way that things work. You know, relationships aren't difficult. They're based on agreements. And when you find somebody that's willing to keep agreements, when you find somebody and you don't send your representative to the first few dates, you send your authentic self that they're likely to reject, and they don't reject them, then you can have a good relationship. Business, you know, most people in business are deceptive. And I tell people all the time, it won't get you business. You won't win. What's going to happen is you'll be deceptive. Later on, people will realize you pretended like you were going to deliver something and then you didn't. And then you don't have business again. So be honest. Be more than honest. Be painfully honest. Be authentic. The next step, though, is you've got to have a massive empathy gene. You guys have done this really well at Big Block. You guys have a different business model than any other real estate firm that I know about. You guys charge a flat monthly fee to your agents, correct?
Right, yep.
So the broker doesn't get anything.
That's right.
Smart. If I'm an agent, that's what I want. I want to keep all of my money. Why would I give the broker something when all he gave me was a desk?
Right.
Or maybe an identity?
Yeah.
And so I think that's just a really smart business model. Uber, smart business model. I live in Vegas, and before Uber, you'd call the yellow cab on the phone, and you say, "Hey, I'm going to the airport. I need a cab," and they'd say, "Okay," and you'd say, "How long will it take for them to get here?" And you could almost hear them laugh.
Yeah.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because what they were saying is 30 minutes if they show up, because they didn't show up. And so what I love about Uber is Uber puts everybody on notice, both the driver and the passenger.
Yep.
You know, they both get rated. And if you get too many bad ratings as a passenger, you can't use Uber anymore. I think that's great.
I love it.
Sometimes people, you know, get angry that there's cameras, public cameras everywhere. You might not have noticed, there's cameras everywhere on my residence. There's cameras outside. There's one there. There's one there. There's cameras inside, because I believe in personal responsibility. And I think most people don't want to be responsible. My kids, they'll get into an argument with each other, and I'll walk into the room and I'll say, "Okay, what happened?" And they'll both explain their positions. And I'll say, "What will the camera say?" "Oh, I did it, Daddy. I did it. I admit it." And so it's very useful. My wife will misplace her phone, and you know, we'll go on the cameras and go, "Okay, you were here. You set it down right there.
There it is.
There's your phone." And so for me, the hypnosis allows me to get inside of both my brain and your brain, and you tell me, here's the program I want my brain to run. My wife got pregnant with our first child. I got pregnant too. She gave birth. I did not. She got pregnant with the second child. I got pregnant with twins. She gave birth. I did not. She got pregnant with our third child. I weighed 263 when my normal weight's about 205. And so, you know, I'm 58 pounds minimum overweight and not happy with myself. The thing is that I just didn't have a reason to be slender anymore. I was semi-retired. I wasn't, you know, wearing my show costumes, which were definitely a substantially, you know, tighter than my Tommy Bahama shirts. And my daughter, at 2 years old, sitting on my lap one day, she reaches down and she pats my 263-pound belly and says, "Daddy, is there a baby in there?" And I went, "Oh, man. Oh,
man, how you going to put me on blast like that?"
Yeah. And so I realized that I needed to get healthy. I didn't feel like running. If I ran at that weight, my knees and my hips were not giving me grace. I'm not one that likes pumping iron. I don't get it. You know, I get vanity. Yeah, I don't have that level, that kind of vanity. And I'm not saying anybody that's that fit has vanity. It's just your choice. My wife didn't play tennis. So even though we had to have a tennis court at our house in Vegas, I wasn't playing with her. I picked up tennis, started playing with some buddies, got my wife to play, which made it even more fun for me because I love spending time with my bride. And then one day we were here at the beach house, and it had rained for a week. And so we couldn't go play tennis. And I asked her, I said, "What do you think about racquetball?" And she said, "I've never played racquetball in my life." I said, "I haven't played since I was 20. The gym around the corner, though, has a racquetball court, and I think that could be fun." And so we went and got some rackets, some racquetballs, and we played. And she wasn't very good because she hadn't played, and I remembered fairly quickly how to play. The thing about tennis is my wife was on the other side of the net, and there's a lot of ball chasing in tennis. You got to run after the balls. In racquetball, the ball bounces back to you. So there's not nearly as much of running after the ball.
Can't really go anywhere.
No, it just comes right back to you when you hit it. The other thing about racquetball is in racquetball, I'm at the back of the court. My wife is right in front of me. And she's bent over serving the ball in these Lululemon shorts. And that's not even working out. That's romance to me. So we play racquetball every single morning for about an hour and 15 minutes. It's been a great workout, taken off a lot of the weight. I found some magic coffee that increases my metabolism. The weight's just poured off of me.
A lot of great information on just kind of big picture stuff in terms of mindset and how people are programmed. How would you say that, I want to first talk about the existing stuff that's there in people's minds that might be holding them back subconsciously, and then I want to talk about how to break those down and kind of move forward. Or one of the guys that I study a lot is Rob Dyrdek, and he talks a lot about how when he was young in his professional skateboarding days, and he went to see a hypnotherapist, and that really unlocked his potential in his own mind and really changed the game for him in terms of like going to the next level. So I want to talk about first like identifying the stuff that might be there, and then kind of how to remove it and move forward.
I don't think most people know how many extremely successful people went to hypnotists or people that did something similar to hypnosis with them. Sylvester Stallone, Rocky, was written under hypnosis. It was sold via the programming of a hypnotist, my mentor actually. So many different people. The thing that most people don't understand is that we all have a way of viewing the world, and how we view the world determines whether or not we finish the thing we're working on. When you're certain a project will succeed, no matter how many times you get knocked off course, you'll go, no, it's done, it's given. It's a fix, I'm in there. And you just don't stop. The thing that stops most people is that doubt creeps in, and they get beat up so much they don't realize that's the natural process. And so what people can do to get more done is, and I said it earlier, begin with the end in mind. Know what is your outcome. And when you're focused on what that outcome is, and you know what the reason you need that outcome or want that outcome is, then everything gets easier. And then what happens is you got to understand, what are your own personality defects? And what are you not good at? And not acknowledging those personality defects is fatal. Most people don't want to realize, I'm not really good managing people, or I don't like sales, or I'm not really a morning person, or I want to be a professional actor or model and I live in Padoink, Iowa. You've got to take charge of your environment. You've got to say, okay, where is the target-rich environment for my success? Where might I find more agents that like the offer that we have at Big Block? Where might I find more people that would be interested? And by the way, target-rich means would and could. Would be interested in what it is that you sell, and more importantly, could afford it. If I have people that are going, oh, I really want what you're selling, and they don't have a dime, what's the point? Yeah. If I have people that are loaded and don't have any interest in what I'm selling, I'm in the same place. The next thing that we've got to do to create the success that we want in reprogramming our brains is, since reality is created by validation, we need to find evidence of the thing that we're working on that will give us the proof that we need. Silly, and I know a lot of people watching this probably won't even be able to relate. When I realized that my head wasn't growing hair the way that I wanted it to grow, I researched and found a bunch of guys that were highly successful that had shaved heads. Jeff Bezos, Barry Diller, and I know it sounds silly because you're not there. You couldn't relate to that, yet I could, and so I had to. And so I think that's important for all of us, no matter what it is, that we find validation of people that we can relate to that have succeeded in ways that we can say, okay, if they can do that, I can too. And then finally, there's really only three things we need to get anything we want. Number one, we've got to create self-mastery. And self-mastery is the ability to control your thoughts and emotions. Ultimately, you control them, whether you know you do or not. You lose your temper, you're actually choosing to lose your temper. You get upset, you're choosing to give your power away to somebody else, and nothing has any power except the power that you give to it. So number one, you've got to create self-mastery. Secondly, you need the tools for the task at hand. Whatever those are. In relationship, the number one tool is agreements. You have an agreement with somebody. You say, we agree to be on time. We agree to be respectful. We agree not to use profane language unless we're happy. And so the third thing is, and this is the hard part for most people, is you can have all the self-mastery in the world. You can be in total control of your thoughts and emotions. You can know exactly what you need to do. The third thing you need is you need the ability to take action in the present moment. Because I guarantee you, I don't care who you are, watching this video, listening to this podcast, you are older than you thought you would be at this point in your life. You're not getting stuff done. And so you've got to be willing to fail forward fast. You've got to be willing to risk, because without risk, there's no goodies. And most people don't risk enough because they're risk adverse, because they don't like losing. You know it. I know it. You know, people that succeed, we know it. We lose more than we win. We do.
Yeah.
The venture capitalist that has $100 million to invest loses $90 million. 9 deals go south. Loses 100% of the money put into those deals. People say, well, then why in the world would they invest in those deals? Because number 10 makes them $1 billion.
Right.
And that's just how the game is. And I will also add to that, never get angry at the game. I like chess. I like playing games. I like games that stimulate my brain. I like chess because chess is very pure. You know, Oliver, you and I play chess. The only advantage is first mover. There's a slight advantage to first mover. Yet if second mover plays well, then there's really no advantage, and every single game is going to end up in a draw. The thing about chess, though, you want to get an advantage. You want to get a slight advantage. So if you can trade a pawn for a primary piece, you keep getting a slight advantage. If you know which pieces actually have incrementally more power, the knights are interesting because they're very good strategy pieces, up 2 over 1. The the rooks all the way forward that they can go, all the way horizontally that they can go. The bishops are a little bit limited because they're stuck on their color.
They're diagonal only.
Yeah, they're stuck on their color. And so if you're playing somebody and they've got a primary piece that's not a bishop and you've got a bishop, you've got a disadvantage. The king, he just plods along. He doesn't really have that much power. The queen, she's the most powerful piece on the board. She can go wherever she wants, as far as she wants, kind of like the real world. And so it's very important to protect your queen. I've played many times with people that when they lose their queen, they give up the game because they're at such a disadvantage. And I say don't do that. I say if you lose your queen, stay in the game, because if you can get your piece to the other side of the board, you can get your pawn to the other side of the board, you can get your queen. In fact, theoretically, you could have 9 queens because you've got 8 pawns, kind of like the real world in Utah. Just a joke. Relax already. My gosh. And so I went to Necker Island. I go to Necker Island quite a bit, and I rent the whole island out, bring students down there, hang out with Sir Richard Branson.
Nice.
The last time I went down, there were chessboards everywhere, and there weren't chessboards before. And I said to my wife, Sir Richard Branson took up chess, which he did. And so every day I'd see him out there playing his employees chess. And one morning I wake up and he's playing an employee chess, and I'm standing there watching him play, and he beats the employee, and the employee goes away. And I said, I like to play chess. He said, are you any good? I said, I've played a couple times. And I just kind of downplay it. And he says, okay, sit down, let's play. So we sit down and we play. And for me, everything is a game. And you got to pay attention on all levels of the game. And to me, the MF, the mind fog of the game of chess is as important as the strategy. And so within 4 moves, I've moved to a place where if I move my knight in front of a pawn, he'll take my knight. It opens up my bishop to take his queen. And so that's not enough, though. So I take the knight, and I hesitate before I move it, and then I move it slowly, and then I sit like I'm looking all over the board. Then I set it down right in front of his pawn, and then I let go. Oh, crap. He went, no, you let go of it. I went, oh, man. And I'm looking at the board. He takes my knight with his pawn, as he should have, he thought. What he doesn't realize is I opened up my bishop to take his queen. I'm looking at the board, and I'm playing Sir Richard Branson chess, and I'm going, was that really the smartest thing to do? You're going to take Sir Richard Branson's queen in 5 moves. He's probably not going to like you much. Then again, if he sees that you could have taken his queen in 5 moves and you don't, he's going to think you're an idiot.
Yeah.
So I'm going, screw it, let's do it.
The conundrum.
Yeah, screw it, let's do it, which, by the way, is the name of his second book anyway, so I did. I took his queen. I take it off the board. He looks at the board. He says, that wasn't a mistake, was it? I said, it's chess. And he conceded. He quit, which kind of surprised me, because I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have thought a billionaire would quit. I would think a billionaire would play it out. He didn't. So
I wonder what the lesson is there. Fold your cards maybe sometimes.
No, I think the lesson there is don't be a sore loser.
Yeah, true that. So one thing that I really picked up there was you keep mentioning that to start with the end in mind.
Yes.
And I think that that's easy to say but hard to execute on. So what does that mean from a practical standpoint? Like, obviously, like, I want my business to succeed. I believe my business is going to succeed, but
right there, that's it. What is success? What does that mean to succeed? And so, to begin with the end in mind, I'm 57. I turn 58 next year, 59, then 60. Simple math. Except for me to come out of retirement, I have everything I want. There's nothing that I want. I have everything I want. I've got more house than I need. You know, I've got more cars than I can drive. I've got the most perfect wife in the world. I've got 3 beautiful, intelligent, funny, amazing children. This is more than I dreamed. For me to come out of retirement, I needed to have something that would really turn my mojo back up again. Number one, I want a better place for my kids. You know, at the top of this interview, we were talking about my opinion that the world had become pretty screwed up. Up was down, down was up, left was right, men were women, women were men. And again, whatever you want to do with your life, that's fine. Don't involve my family, that's all. Don't be a man dressed as a woman walking to the restroom with my daughter. It's not going to happen. And again, I'm not attacking anybody. I'm just having my point of view. If you want yours, I get mine too. And so for me, what it is I just wanted to help people create more certainty. I wanted people to have more joy again, be happier again. And you know, I see so many people screaming all the time, and it's like, it breaks my heart. For them too, for me and for them. Yeah. It's just like, why are you in so much pain? How can I help you? Let me help you get clarity. And so I came out of retirement to create Certainty International for my children so that they can live in a more certain world. My own personal belief is Ayn Rand, if you know who that is, Atlas Shrugged, Fountainhead. She also wrote a book called The Virtues of Selfishness. And in The Virtues of Selfishness, she talks about, you can boil the book down to what the flight attendant says when you get on the plane. In the event of a loss of cabin pressure, oxygen masks will drop down from the ceiling. Please place your mask on first, then assist the idiot thrashing beside you. Because if you don't put yours on first and you attempt to assist them, you'll both pass out and die. And if everybody would just get selfish at once about everything, if I selfishly want to make your life better, not because I get paid to do it, because it makes me feel really good about it, if I selfishly want my children to have this amazing life, and I want to hand my wife $1 billion check on my 60th birthday merely as a target, as the end in mind, then what happens is my brain starts thinking on the $1 billion level. I'd never really thought on the $1 billion level. I've made hundreds of millions of dollars barely doing anything. And so I never really thought that $1 billion was necessary. And then I thought, well, how cool would it be, though, to be the first $1 billion hypnotist or certainologist? And I thought, how cool would it be to be the guy that tells the world I gave my wife $1 billion check on my 60th birthday, so that after I'm dead, because she's much younger than me, because I'm a really good hypnotist, when I pass, there won't be a man on the planet that can impress her with anything he has. And not that that matters to me. I just want my wife and my family to be self-sufficient. And so for me to come out of retirement to not only, number one, create that for them, to create certainty centers around the globe that would be a place where entrepreneurs could go when they're feeling down, when they're feeling stuck, they're going, I don't know what I need to do. They could go to the Certainty Center and they could hang out with like-minded people. Number one, get back in a better environment. Number two, do it at no cost, Church for Entrepreneurs. And number three, be able to go back to their community, be personally responsible in their community, and give back in a way that is productive. The whole world's a better place. And if nobody ever gave me credit for that, and it still happened, I'd be cool.
Wow. That's a big purpose.
It's a big what?
I love it. A big what? Yeah, exactly. So I want to talk back, circling back to the reprogramming of your mind, right? Like, is that, I'm curious what your thoughts are in terms of how visualizations play into that, how affirmations and some of like the woo-woo stuff that you hear about, how does that all factor into the equation?
I'll help you.
Okay.
Clear your mind. When it's clear, say yes.
Yes.
That was easy. Might be the beer. Clear your mind. I want you to, I've got a die in my hand. I want you to think of any number 1 through 6, and when you have that number, say yes. Don't tell me, just say yes.
Yes.
Got the number?
Yes.
I want you to take this die, and I'm going to turn my head so I can't see. On your pad of paper, I want you to turn the die face up to the number that you're thinking of right now, and then cup it with your hand so you're not touching it, but you can't change it, yet I can't see it. Turn it face up to the die number that you're thinking of right now.
All right.
And when you're done, say yes.
Yes.
I'm going to go through the numbers one at a time.
Okay.
I want you to say no to each number. I'm going to say, is it 1? You're going to say no. Is it 2? You're going to say no. I want you to say no to each number.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Is it number 1?
No.
Is it number 2?
No.
Is it number 3?
No.
Is it number 4?
No.
Is it number 5?
No.
Is it number 6?
No.
Weird thing is, your eyes moved off to the side on 1 through 3. And then you got serious right on number 4. And now you're nodding your head up and down number 4, which lets me know subconsciously it's number 4.
That's so annoying.
If that's number 4, say you're awesome, Marshall Sylver.
You're awesome. That
Thank
was
you.
amazing. It was number 4.
Yeah. So we'll do it one more time.
Yeah.
Clear your mind.
All right. Let me clear my
Look
mind.
at me
Hold
now.
up. All
Clear
right.
your mind.
All right.
Any number 1 through 6, when you have that number, say yes. Any number 1 through 6, when you have it, say yes.
Yes.
Take the die. Same thing all over again. I'll turn my back. Face up to the number you're thinking of. When you
Okay.
say yes when it's
Yes.
up. Okay. You were going to select the number 1 because you're number 1. Except you second guessed yourself. And now you've smiled. 3 times I've done this, and before it was number 5 and then number 6. So I just told a story that actually used all the numbers in the story that I told, and you only grinned on one of them. It was number 2.
Man, you just blew my mind. That's so crazy. That's wild.
You'll go back, you'll watch this video, and you'll see I said, you thought of number 1, then you second guessed yourself, and then you grinned.
Yeah.
And then I used all the numbers. You watch this on the video, you'll see that's the only number you grinned on, and it was slight. It was ever so slight.
And I did change my mind because I was like, I had another number in mind. I
You
was
had
like,
number 5 in mind.
5 in mind. Holy shit.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Can we dissect that? Can we
Sure.
talk about how that just happened?
Yeah, I can talk about everything. You had number 5 in mind because I was programming you to have number 5 in mind. I was saying, clear your mind, think of any number whatsoever. Just think of any number whatsoever. So you were thinking of 5, except there was something about you that said, he's being sketchy. Something's going on here. He's hypnotizing me. He's right?
It's unbelievable, yeah.
That's what was going on. And so I realized I had to go back to what's called a cold read. What a cold read is every single thought we think has a physical response in our body. It is impossible for us to think a thought without us telegraphing that thought, even in a minor way, to the outside world. The challenge is if we have thoughts of doubt, if we have insecurities, lack of confidence, we telegraph that to the outside world. And our customers, our buyers say, I liked the product, it was a fair price, something just wasn't adding up.
Didn't feel right.
Didn't feel right, and I didn't buy. And it was because the person was insecure, maybe they were needy, maybe their rent or their mortgage was due and they had to close that sale to eat. And so we've got to come from a place of certainty. We have to come from a place of confidence. And then the other piece is we've got to get out of our own heads and not make it about us and put our full attention on our customer. I put my full attention on my wife when I'm with her. I put my full attention on my children when I'm with them. And so when you do that, every person telegraphs. Every person fires off those symbols. I don't play poker because it's unfair. It's flat out not fair.
I was going to say, I'd take that to Vegas.
Yeah.
But you already did.
Yeah, I have taken it to Vegas. I played blackjack when I played. And I liked blackjack because blackjack, there's no way for me to use my powers there other than my powers of math, my powers of understanding basic strategy, my ability to manage money. And so I got booted. I got booted from the Hard Rock. I took him for a big amount of money in a short amount of time. And Peter Morton was the owner at the time. And he booted me. And I had his phone number. And so I did what every gambler of all time wants to do. I called Peter Morton up. I said, Peter, I'm going to tell you something. Every player has wanted to tell an owner, you are a sore loser. So
Damn.
He sold the casino, and then the new owner said I could play, and I took him for $300,000 in like 90 days. And so they booted me again, and the new owner let me play. And I was up $120,000 in a night. And first night I'm playing again with the new owner. I feel a tap on my shoulder. I said, I know who you are. Can I at least finish this hand? So
Did they let you finish?
I finished, and I walked away with $150,000.
Wow.
Then I met my wife, and I realized that it wasn't. She doesn't gamble or drink or smoke or do anything, and so I didn't feel like sitting there for 3-4 hours with her by my side.
Totally. Makes sense.
And now with kids, I would never do it.
So that was, my mind is still blown on how you just did all that. And I'd love to get your perspective on like some ninja tricks on how you can do that in the boardroom, right? Like how can you, let's say you're negotiating a deal with someone, what are some strategies that you could bring in?
Well, again, one of the strategies is cold reading. I teach an event called Turning Point. We have 10 separate programs that we teach, and this could be very, very useful to your realtors. They sit down with somebody, and everybody is emotionally attached to their homes. They think they're worth twice as much as they're actually worth.
Yep.
And they know that they can get the listing if they agree to the listing at the price that the seller wants to sell it at, yet they know it will never sell at that price. So to be able to read the body language, number one, to know, oh, we wouldn't take a dime less than $5 million, knowing that they're telegraphing that they're desperate and that they would. And so you need to have that conversation. Or the ability to be able to program into their brain, you've got to pick a number for the sale price of your home. And I know you've thrown around $5 million. Before we go any further, I need to tell you, most realtors will tell you it's worth 5 just to get the listing, then they'll tell you you have to reduce it. I want to tell you, before I became a realtor, I determined I would always tell the truth. I would never, ever, ever mislead people, get the listing on their price knowing that I'd have to reduce it. So before we go anywhere, I need you to know it's not going to sell for $5 million, not me, not another realtor. And before you select a price that we're going to sell it for, know that I've had the integrity to tell you the truth. What's the number? 4? Well, the reason it's 4 is I've said B4, 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 B4 4 times. I programmed them, whether they realize it or not. I was saying B4, B4, B4. And so those subtleties, most people don't know what they're saying. They're not paying attention to all those things. And I call it play every ace. Everything. You have to know every detail of what might impact a buyer or a seller or a decision maker, and everything. And most people just don't pay attention to those things. They go in and they wing it and they think, I'll razzle dazzle them. That's not how it works. I get on stage at our seminars. In fact, I'm going to invite at the end of this podcast some of your viewers, your listeners, to come join me and experience it, because I want them to get back on the podcast.
We might as well tell them now while we're talking about it. You want to tell them what you...
Sure. I've got an event.
Special offer.
Absolutely. I have an event. I've been teaching it for 34 years. And the event's called Turning Point. And it does 3 primary things. The first thing it does is it turns up your wantingness. You come hang out at the beach house, you come fly in the private jet, you come hang out with me at the palace, 17,000 square foot palace in Vegas, you'll want it. You'll want that lifestyle. You come hang out with anybody that's successful like you and your partner Sam, and you'll want it. You just didn't know you could have it until you saw it right in front of you. And so I want to turn up a person's wantingness. That turns up their confidence. That turns up their motivation. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to give you back your wantingness, your mojo. The second thing is you're screwed up. You are. You don't even know it. And you won't admit it even when you know it. And you're screwed up because from the time you were born until you were 8 years old, stuff was put into your head that wasn't true. And the people that put it into your head, even some of them were well-intentioned. It was parents that they thought they were doing good. My mom loved me, except she told me work hard, get ahead, when in truth, working hard gets you more hard work. That's what it gets you. So the second thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to reprogram your brain so that you can get everything you want in every area of your life. When your relationships are doing well, everything's easy. When your relationships aren't going well, everything's impossible. I know this to be true. I've lived through it. I'm going to show you how to create financial abundance. Money isn't difficult. It's different. I'm going to show you how to do the math, make money happen in your life so that you have more freedoms and more choices. I'm also going to help you create emotional, mental, physical, and even spiritual well-being by taming the programs of your brain. Third thing I'm going to do is everything that we want that we don't have, we get from other people. So you better fall in love, number 1, with people, and number 2, with the practice and the science of influence. I'm going to teach you something called irresistible influence. How do you get other people to beg you for what you're selling and have them believe it was their idea? Tickets are normally $3,000 per person. For the first 15 people who watch or listen to this podcast, give my office a call, and I'll give you the number in a second, and say, Oliver sent me. Oliver sent me. For the first 15 people that call my office at 1-800-92-POWER. That's 1-800-927-6937. Say, Oliver sent me. First 15 people, we're going to give you free tickets. And here's the reason. After you go through Turning Point, what I want you to do is come back to this blog, go into the comment section, say, I love your blog, share it with other people. I called up, I got the tickets, I went to Turning Point, changed my life. You got to keep listening to this blog. You got to keep watching this blog. It's my gift to you and my gift to your viewers and listeners.
That's amazing. So first off, thank you very much. I would highly recommend that you take advantage of that. Again, just call his office, 800-92-POWER. Let them know Oliver sent you, and their team will take care of you guys. So if people want to learn more about this whole thing, right? Like, let's say I'm feeling stuck and I want to go to the next level.
Which, by the way, is the name of one of our other programs.
Feeling stuck.
The next
Next level.
Yes.
Okay.
No,
So-
feeling stuck would suck.
Yeah, it does.
Hey, come to my seminar, feeling stuck. And then the one I screwed up.
That's
They're a
not
combo.
recommended branding. No.
No, it is, because that is what we want to do. We want to take our lives to the next level.
Right.
And so if they're feeling stuck, number one, keep coming back to this podcast. Check me out at Sylver, SYLVER.com. Be one of the first 15 people. And even though you might think that this podcast had been done, weeks before, and that you surely wouldn't be one of the first 15, I'd call anyway. You never know what's going to happen.
Yep.
My bride, when I met her, I was doing a seminar in Boston, and I walked into the room at 9:07 on the first day, because I walked in at exactly 9:07 on the first day. 4 rows back, there was this most gorgeous woman, beautiful woman, and I get up on stage, and if you're going to close a prospect, you have to qualify them first. So I got on stage,
Amen to that.
and I said, who here is single and would love to create an awesome, passionate relationship? Put your hand up, say, oh yeah. She didn't put her hand up. I said, okay, I'm not done yet. I said, who here is in a relationship and would love to create an awesome, passionate relationship? And I pointed at myself. And she didn't put her hand up, and she looked away from me. Well, it let me know by the cold read that she wasn't single, she was in a relationship, yet she wasn't happy and didn't want more passion in that relationship. So game on, baby, game on.
Wow.
Thank you very much. And so what I did, I'm teaching 1,000 people, and I'm gonna hypnotize her without her knowing it, in full awareness state, to ask me out on a date. And so I walk out into the audience, and I'm teaching, and I walk right beside her, and let's imagine she's seated right beside me, and I turn to the side, and I say, often what you want is right in front of you, so close you could reach out and touch it. And my hand is right in front of her, and she's like going like this, like she's gonna reach out and touch my hand. And I said, you want this badly. And I'm talking to the audience, and I'm programming her to ask me out on a date. And sure enough, on the first break, she comes up, she asks me out on a date, and as they say, the rest is history.
It's fascinating.
Begin with the end in mind, baby.
Fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. It really is. So is this, again, for the people feeling stuck, and I don't mean necessarily not successful, because even really successful people feel stuck going to the next level, right? Is this something that they should, back to the Rob Dyrdek thing, go see a professional like yourself?
They should come to Turning Point.
To talk, okay.
Yeah, in fact, I want to invite every last one of your big block agents to come to Turning Point.
Okay.
As my guest.
Great.
Come to Turning Point. 1 year, you'll double, triple, quadruple your productivity. And again, that's your team. That would be my gift to you, and I'm selfish. I know for a fact, number one, they're going to want additional training from me. Number two, it's going to be such a story. You're going to produce at levels you never thought you could produce at. That I'll land all the other huge real estate companies as well. I've been doing this for 34 years. Yeah. I've been on stage for 50 years. I know what this does. And I would agree, it's not just somebody that's losing that feels stuck. It's somebody that's producing actually at a complacent level that starts feeling stuck. They're making $100, $150, $200,000 a year. And they say, okay, how do I get to $1 million? Yeah. It's kind of like being on a trapeze bar. You're on a trapeze bar and you're safe. You're not falling. And it's a comfortable one. It's $200,000 a year. You see $1 million a year over there. The challenge is, in order for you to get to what you want, you got to let go of what you have. And that's the scary thing. Again, people that are in relationships that aren't good, you have to reach a point where you say, enough's enough, I'm done. I got to move on. For me, at 263 pounds, again, I've got the love of my life. She loved me at 263, never complained one time. Now that I've taken the fat off and I'm back at 214, 215, it's like I've just got married again. She's going, man, you look smoking hot, honey. Yeah, look at you in your Lululemon shorts playing racquetball with me. No wonder I'm chasing you all over the place. And it's about being joyful. So anybody stuck, number one, be grateful. Figure out what you're grateful for. Because when you appreciate what you have, you get more. And you must appreciate where you are now, because where you're at later will be where you're at now then. And play back the video, it all makes sense. Next thing though, be certain. Whatever it is you're working on, whatever it is you seek to accomplish, you've got to start with certainty. Certainty is the absence of doubt.
Yeah.
Number three, if you're looking for a fast hack find somebody that you can relate to, you can identify with, that's accomplished what you want to accomplish, hack them. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
That's great
hack
advice.
them. And then finally, figure out what is the personal alteration. What's the personality shift? What's the personality distinction you've got to change? Do you have to get rid of toxic relationships? Do you have to find good mentors? Do you need to start hanging out with people that are more than you are? Because the ones you're hanging out with are either where you are or less than you are, and they don't motivate you, they don't instill that certainty. Watch podcasts like this, listen to, audio broadcasts, listen to less fiction, listen to more how-tos and autobiographies of successful people.
Yeah, real deal information.
Absolutely.
So one thing I hear you keep coming back to certainty, and I think that, can certainty be manufactured?
Absolutely.
So talk to me about how that works, because a lot of times you think you might be able to do it, but you don't have that certainty that I think is required to push through. So how does one?
I do. What you just did was called a projected program. And what a projected program is often you don't think you can. And I know you're just talking in global statements. You weren't talking about me.
Right.
Except the moment you say it to me and I agree, I accept it as a program.
Okay.
So anytime somebody says I or I am, do you have a hard time remembering names? That's the reason, right there. That's it. The only distinction between a genius and a moron is they know who they are. A moron looks at a circumstance and something they don't know how to solve, and they say, I don't know how to solve that. I'm a moron. I couldn't possibly figure it out. Oh, yuck, yuck, yuck. And they move along. A genius will look at that same circumstance and say, I have no clue of how to solve that circumstance. Yet I am a genius. I'll solve it. I have no idea how to invent the electric light bulb. I have no idea how to create teleportation, except I'm a genius. I will figure it out. And I'll keep throwing noodles until I do. The Teslas, the Edisons, the Musks of the world, my brain is wired differently. Your brain is wired differently. And every time you have a success, it gets easier to expand a little bit further.
Because of the validation.
Because of the validation. Our president at one point was $1 billion in debt. He and his wife walking down the street past a homeless person. He says, that guy's worth $1 billion more than me because he doesn't owe anybody $1 billion. Except Donald Trump knows he's a billionaire. And he says, I'm a billionaire. So even if I'm down, I'm getting back up again because I know what I'm doing. They say your first million is the most difficult one to make. That once you make your first million, you know you can, even if you lose it. So here's my advice to you. Skip the first one altogether. Move right on to the second one. And here's how you move on to the second one. Say these words out loud for me. I am a millionaire.
I am a millionaire.
Even if the money has not yet been deposited in my bank account.
Even if the money has not yet been deposited in my bank account.
See, that was so profound, the lights went out even.
Man. We just shut it down.
That was so powerful. We sucked all the energy right out of the LEDs. That is it. I just think that so many people are afraid to say that. My babies, my kids, I teach them all the time. My son the other day was having a hard time. And I said, son, act as if you're happy. I don't know how to act as if I'm happy, Dad. I said, when you act as if you're happy, your brain will start to be tricked. It'll think you're happy. He said, what do I do? I said, son, I've never seen you walk across the floor in your entire life. He's 6 years old. The only way you move from one place to another is you dance. You dance across the floor. His name's Maximus. And I said, Max, you have this other thing that you do that brings instant joy to you and everybody around you. You look at them, you go.
So my daughter.
Yes. And I said, Max, that makes you happy. It makes me happy. Just do that. And so he's kind of still, I said, just do it one time. I said, no, do it like you do it. Smile like you go. Smile. And he does it, and he's like giggling and laughing and back to joy again. And so it's true. Our physicality creates state for us. And I have a process that we do, WWMD, what would a millionaire do? What would Marshall do? It works with everything, though. What would a great parent do? Another challenge the other day with one of my babies, and they were having a hard time. I sent them to their room. And even though I thought in my brain that's what needed to happen, I sat down at my desk and I said, maybe they just need you to talk. Maybe you should go back in there and do a different strategy. And I went back in and I sat down and I said, I'm not happy right now. And I can tell you're not happy right now. Except I want to change up my strategy to see if this won't help you understand this a little bit better. And that is the thing, is you got to have a big tool belt. No matter what the task at hand is, you got to be willing to shift up strategies. Don't do the same thing in the same way again. It produces the same result. Keep shifting up. And when you do that, you end up getting closer and closer and closer and closer. We have all sorts of processes we use inside of our sales processes, that little subtleties that we do. And we close at our live events $10,000, $12,000 per person. To keep it in perspective, the average seminar company does $2,000, maybe $3,000 per person. And our customers are evangelical.
Those are big numbers.
They produce amazing results. They come back again and again. The majority of the training that I do is inside the real estate space.
Okay.
Realtors, mortgage brokers, mostly real estate investors, which is a real good environment for realtors to hang out in.
Yeah.
If they're hanging out with a room
Definitely.
filled with real estate investors, there's potential clients.
It's good company.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. I want to stay on the strategies because I feel like
you said you were nerdy about this, and I would agree with you.
Yeah, I'm very nerdy about this.
This may be 2 or 3 podcasts. This may be more than one.
No, this is good. In terms of like starting a presentation, because I've seen you talk live many times, and you've literally got people lifting and rising out of their seats, and I
own the room.
What exactly? You own the room. So what would be some tips for people going in to present to a seller, some ways to own the room?
Your whole job is to put them in a yes state. So do not ask questions that could potentially be answered with a no. Only ask questions that would put them in a yes state. Who wants more money? Easy question. Who wants more fun? Easy yes.
Okay.
Who wants more joy? Who wants to sell their house as quickly as possible at the highest possible price? Say yes. They're gonna say yes. When you become fun to say yes to, then when the question is, are you ready to list your house? And you're nodding your head up and down, that's an easy question to say yes to. So start with a yes state.
So are you literally just asking them yes questions that
Absolutely.
you know that they're going to say yes to?
You're asking them yes questions, you're nodding your head, and you're insisting on an answer.
So like, do you want to sell your house for top dollar? Yes.
No.
Oh.
You want to sell your house at top dollar, don't
Right.
you?
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
so use an arcing statement, an
Okay.
affirmative response conditioning statement, and you go through all those yeses, and then there's 3 steps. When I close, what you saw me do, when I close so well. If I'm in an arena with 10,000 people, the challenge is I can't send 6,000 or 7,000 people to the tables at once. All those people crush the tables. People that are 5 or 6 or 10 people deep, they stand there with the order form in their hand, and maybe they close, maybe they get bored, maybe they're tired of standing, and they leave. So I've got to send them in waves. So there's 3 waves that I send people, and this is something to keep in mind, because in your sales presentation, you should go through each of these waves until you get the result you want. Wave number 1. All buying decisions are based first on emotion and then back up with logic. I've got a Maybach in the garage here at the beach house, $250,000 automobile, brand new. I bought it with 1,000 miles on it, negotiated it down to 160,000.
It's the way to do it.
I'll never buy a luxury vehicle brand new ever again.
Off the lot, right.
No. 500 miles on it, you save $100,000, $200,000. I have a Rolls Royce in the Vegas house. Nobody needs a $450,000 automobile to get them from point A to point B until you've driven one, then you justify it. So all buying decisions are based first on emotion and then back up with logic. Our subconscious mind is our emotional mind. So that means all buying decisions are based first subconsciously and then back up consciously. So there's a group of people, and I'm one of them. I don't need the logic. If I sit in the car and I like it, I want it. I'll figure out how to buy it. Even should I not be able to afford that thing that I'm going to buy, I'll figure out how to afford it. So that's the first close. The first close, purely emotional. Let's get this house sold now. Let's get this house sold now at a fair price for you and the buyer. I know that's what you want to do. That's the first close. Should it not close there, the second close is a logical close. So my first close is emotional. My second close is logic. If you're taking notes, and I know you are because you want this badly, money is math. And so the second close to a potential seller is, how long have you been thinking about selling your house? How many times have you listed it with other realtors? How many months have gone by? All this time, what's your mortgage? Okay, man, you've spent $150,000 on a house
Thinking about it.
you don't want to live in anymore.
Right.
And so you got to do the math. And
I
so
love that.
that's the logic. So we do the emotion, we back it up with logic. Look, I'm not going to lie to you. Another realtor will lie to you to get your listing. That's not me. I work with Big Block Realty. They do everything in a different way. They're more honest. The brokers don't make anything when I sell your house. I make money when I sell your house. And so I want you to know that Here's what your house will sell for. Here's the time frame. In fact, I have this thing that I created, and I created it for one realtor in Vegas. And I also think, though, it's powerful. I asked this woman, she was at my mastermind. We sell for $50,000. And I asked her, she's on her hot seat, and I said, what percentage of the houses that you list, do you sell? She said 100%. And she looked at me like I was an idiot. And I said, that's a fair question. You sell 100% of the homes you list? And she said, yeah. Like, I'm still an idiot. And I'm going, what am I missing here? She said, I won't take a listing unless I know the house is listed at the price it's going to sell for. And I said, wow, that's awesome. She said, what's the point? I got to go back to the seller and say, no, you overpriced your house?
Right.
Then they think I lied to them. I won't lie to them. I'm a good Christian woman. And I said, well, if you sell 100% of the houses you list, I guess it's guaranteed sold by you. She said, pretty much. I said, no, I'm telling you, guaranteed sold should be your brand.
Yes,
And she said, what do you mean? I said, so are you confident you will sell 100% of the houses that you list? She said, yes. I said, then here's the guarantee. Your house is guaranteed sold, or I will pay you the commission I would have earned had I sold your house.
Ooh.
She said, love it. I said, again, if you know what you're doing, like I know what I'm doing, it's not something you're afraid of. You just say, okay, done. Crushing it. Because who wouldn't go to a realtor that says your house sold, guaranteed, or I pay you the commission I would have made on the house?
Yeah.
I'm taking your breath away. I can see you taking your breath away. Going, I love this stuff. And so those are the kinds of things that we come up with for people. We figure out how to get into people's brains and strategize until we find the marketing formula, just like you guys did with Big Lock.
Yep.
No, that's why you guys, 800, 1,000 agents now?
Almost 1,000, yeah.
That's remarkable. Yeah. And so fast. And all you did was change the formula.
That's right. Approached it a little bit differently.
And then the third thing, so all buying decisions based first on emotion.
Back up with logic.
Back up with logic. Here's the third one. Some people don't do anything unless they get a spanky. And so the third close is spanky.
Give them the spanky.
Yeah, give them spanky. You know, your house, you've been attempting to sell your house for 2 years. You've had 4 realtors list the house. I go on the records and I see it's been listed and price reduced and this and that, and jerked around. Do you want to sell your house or not? Because I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste your time. I respect you unless you get reasonable. I'm a professional. I know that I can sell your home. I can guarantee that I can sell your home. The challenge is you need to also be reasonable too.
Help me help you.
Yes. Are we going to be reasonable together? And the spanky is just saying, look, like I do in my seminars, I close one wave of people, they go back and they buy. I close the next 2,000 people, they go back and buy. And then the spanky in that 10,000 person arena is all 4,000 of the people that have already stood up, raced back to the back, and bought my $3,000 seminar right now will have an unfair advantage over you. Apples to apples, they're selling the house, they're building their business, and you won't. Because you came to the seminar, you sat in your seat, and you didn't let me help you protect the investment you made in every other seminar you've ever bought over the last 10 years. Let me help you. Let me help you.
Spanky.
Yes. The challenge is some people like spankings, so they like more. Maybe even somebody watching this. No, don't call me up for spankings.
No,
it's illegal.
That's honestly,
and I like it too much.
That's great advice. I love the 3-step close, and I love the emotion first, the logic second. But really, sometimes you need that heavy hand at the end, especially to someone that's been kind of kicking the can down the road for a while.
Because they don't do anything unless they get spanked.
Exactly. Love it. So I just want to end with one final question.
Because we're about to have a moon rising right now.
Yeah, because we're about to
the moon's coming
shut
up.
the beach down. I'm just curious, looking back over your career, because you've had a long, wonderful career, what would you say is that one thing that's been kind of the difference maker for you?
My wife. My wife. I give her all the credit. She's perfect. And I'm not being soapy or my wife's perfect. And I think that, Napoleon Hill talked about he didn't use the term is a biblical term, evenly yoked, finding the right business partner, like you found in Sam and like he found in you, finding the right spouse so that you're not drama-filled all the time. I think it's important for people to find good relationships and treat them like diamonds, treat them like gemstones. And more than anything else, be respectful, be grateful, be kind. I'm so grateful for this interview. I'm so grateful to meet you. This has been
Likewise,
fun.
yeah,
it's been fun.
for sure.
This is, like I said, barefoot at my beach house. And it's been a very different kind of interview. And you're so inquisitive. You love it. I can see the giddiness in you.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's been fun. And so my prayer is that anybody watching this podcast, number one, checks out every other podcast in the series and watches a whole bunch of them. Number two, contact Lance at 1-800-92-POWER to get your Turning Point ticket worth $3,000. Come join us at Turning Point. And then after that, and this is your agreement back to me, after you go to Turning Point and you love it, and I know you will, get back on the chat, get back to this podcast, tell people what happened here, what gift you got from here, and then share this podcast with as many people as you can so that good stuff, all this can go viral.
Love it. Love it.
Velocity.
Well, I just want to say cheers.
Yeah,
I really
I'm all cheered
appreciate
up.
you. Yeah, we're
I'm all
cheers
back
out.
inside.
We're shutting it down. And if you like the show, go ahead and subscribe. If you want to see more of Marshall, check out Sylver.com and definitely take advantage of his offer. That's something that we've never done on the show before. And I think it's really cool that he's able to offer that to you guys. Check him out, 892-POWER. Check out one of his events. Let us know how it goes for you. I know I'm excited about learning more and just really appreciate you. Thanks a lot,
My
Marshall.
pleasure.